Hello and good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Fire Year 2023 PIO webinar. My name is Hannah Lankowski, and I am the acting Deputy Chief of Fire, BLM Fire, located up here at the National Interagency Fire Center. And I am joined today by our External Affairs Interagency crew that all communicate about fire. Samantha Storms is normally your facilitator for this webinar. She unfortunately is at the Colorado preseason meeting and will not be able to participate today, but she sends her hellos. This meeting is being recorded, and we will make sure that recording is available to everyone, including those who were unable to join today, in addition to a number of links and places to find additional information about the topics that we are covering today. We have a fun game that's going to happen further into the meeting. It's called Kahoot, and there is a website that you can visit or an app that you can download to your phone for this game. And Sherry Asherfeld will be posting the information to that Kahoot game and the login information to the chat. So please look for that. You will want to be logged in when we get to that portion of the webinar. I'm going to ask the external affairs staff to turn on their cameras so they can wave hello, and I'll quickly cover who all of our great EA staff is and where they are from. So I'm going to start with my colleagues with BLM Fire. We have Jennifer Miss Livy. We have Sherry Asherfeld. And we have Karen Dante Wood. And then we're going to go over to the National Park Service. We have Tina Bull. And we have Candy Stevenson. And Karen McNee is also on the line. With the Forest Service, we have Brian Reublinger. And then with Fish and Wildlife Service, we have Carrie Cobb. And then we have a couple of other presenters as well. We have Jesse Bender with the BLM and Jim Wallman with the Forest Service. So a reminder that this meeting is being recorded and you are muted and your cameras are off. To participate in this meeting, please drop any questions that you have into the Q&As portion. You can find that location up. We were joined by Lessa Peters. Sorry, Lessa. Lessa is with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Welcome, Lessa. So you can find that questions and answers portion at the bottom of your screen. It's labeled with a Q&A and two little comment bubbles. So please feel free to use that throughout the meeting. Our EA staff will be monitoring the questions and answering them as they come in and saving a handful of them for the questions and answers portion at the end of this meeting. Let's move on to our presentations. We do only have an hour, so we're going to be moving fairly quickly with this webinar. So we're going to go over to Jim Wallman, and he's going to present on predictive services.
All right, thanks, Hannah. So I should see my screen now. And so I'm going to just go through, not really the overview, but really just the spring summer fire outlook, what we've been looking. We are going to have another outlook due here in a couple weeks. With some updates. There is a little bit of uncertainty, especially as we get towards the summer, and I'll speak a little bit more on that later. So just to start off here, just looking, we heard a lot about the atmospheric rivers in California that kind of really stretch into the Great Basin, much of the Mountain West. Our snowpack as of mid-May is still well above normal. Some of these numbers get a little crazy just because in some of these recording sites, there isn't supposed to be any snow and there's still several feet. So just kind of shows how much snow. However, one thing that is concerning us with the recent heat wave is the rapid snow melt that is occurring up in the Northern Rockies and portions of Northwest, especially Washington, where their snowpack is rapidly melting off right now ahead of normal. But for Alaska, they had a really cold and wet April, and that has held on to quite a bit of snow there over the eastern interior and portions of the Kenai Peninsula and even the Panhandle. Although that is, gradually starting to melt, they're going to get some much warmer temperatures up here in the next couple of weeks, so that should melt off. And then this is kind of what just the snowpack looks like as far as the extent across the country. You can still see in the Sierra, heavy snowpack there, which is, pretty much now is looking like a midwinter, even exceeding midwinter, what we'd see midwinter like in March. Still, there's a lot of snow to come off there. So drought, as you can imagine, there's no drought in Alaska. They had a really wet end to their fire season and continue to be wet there over the winter, so they're out of drought. As far as the lower 48, we're looking much better in the west. Those atmospheric rivers have really significantly improved the drought over much of California, through the Great Basin into the Rockies. Although because of the normal conditions we have of the winter, there was some drought development in the Idaho Panhandle and northwest Montana. The drought over the plains continues. However, they've gotten quite a bit of rain here over the last week or so, and we're seeing that drought start to improve. There's also been some significant drought this spring in Florida, but that should start to ease in the next month, and also some drought in the mid-Atlantic and portions of southern New England. The next 2 weeks, our outlook, at least from the Climate Prediction Center, is watching above normal temperatures continue over the northern 2/3 of the country, maybe some near to below across the southern tier, and then above normal precipitation across much of the west and the plains. One thing I will say is when we look into the southwest and portions of the southern Great Basin, California, it's starting to get to it's their dry season. And so above normal there just, can mean just they're actually getting just some isolated precip around the area. It's not as significant as it would be to say during monsoon season or during winter. Good news in Florida, for the drought there, above normal precipitation is likely for the rest of the month. Some concerns though for the Great Lakes and the Northeast, where it has been dry so far last month, likely to continue to be drier than normal here through the end of the month. So, and we have started seeing some increase in fires there. As for June through August, much of the country is expected to be above normal once again, kind of focused in the west and southwest, and then also on the east coast. Alaska is forecast to be above normal temperatures over the summer as well. And then for precipitation, some concerns will be for the southwest, where we could have a drier than normal monsoon, and also up into the Pacific Northwest and Northern Rockies, where if we continue this heat wave that is currently going on, that and this rapid melt off, that could really start to change our outlook over the next 2 weeks when we update it. Good news for the eastern half of the country is that after they're kind of dry here for the next few weeks, starting to get trend back to above normal precipitation there. And then Alaska, overall, most of the areas where we are concerned with fire, especially of the interior, just looks to be near normal, leaning towards a near normal summer there. One thing that is really impacting our forecast and has been a bit of uncertainty is we're rapidly transitioning into El Nino. We just went through a 3-year cycle of La Nina, and now we've had a really very strong and active winter and spring Madden-Julian oscillation, which is a really tropical oscillation that's shows a lot of convection, a lot of thunderstorms, a lot of shower activity in the tropics, and that affects the mid-latitudes. And so that's helped bring really above normal precipitation continuing through much of April into the west. And then as far as coming from CPC, we have an El Nino watch, and we could have a rapid transition to El Nino this summer. Really, they're already forecasting that within the next month or two, we're going to be in El Nino, and a 90% chance of El Nino by the end of the year. And the strength of that is really what's giving us the most uncertainty as to how quickly that really strengthens. And this will have large-scale implications on weather and climate. And the thing is, how quickly this occurs, how quickly it starts to impact the atmosphere is what we're most uncertain about. So I'm just going to kind of show an image here. This is like an El Nino forecast. It's a bunch of models, and I just want to focus because on the black line is what has occurred, and these are sea surface temperature anomalies out in the central Pacific, and that 0.5 degree line that's kind of dashed red is where we typically start to see El Nino. You can see the models, pretty much in the next month are we're going to be in El Nino, and that will start to impact the pattern. And as we get into midsummer, if you see that other line, that short dash line, that maroon line, that is signals where the threshold for a strong El Nino, and some of the models, and if not all of them by fall, but some of them even by mid to late summer will be in that strong cycle. And that could, have a pretty good impact on monsoon, which typically the monsoon is a bit drier, not as strong during El Nino. So that's something they're watching, and something we're trying to get a better handle on over the next couple of weeks to see how that will plan out. As far as currently the rest of the outlook for May, overall we're looking great across much of the West. Because of the heavy snowpack, below normal in the Southern Great Basin and much of the Southwest too. Good news there is they actually are receiving kind of almost like a pseudo monsoonal pattern there. They've been getting daily thunderstorms the last several days. That'll continue at least through this weekend. So that'll really continue to delay their fire season there. The above normal you see there in far West Texas really hasn't panned out, especially now that they're starting to see, those daily thunderstorms there as well, and then below normal for the Northern Plains. As we head towards next month, across much of the West, California, the great higher elevations, Great Basin, Southwest, still looking really good. Below normal potential. Not to say that we're not going to see any fires. We probably will see a bunch of fires. We start to dry out. We'll see some fires. Maybe nothing really exceptionally large. We could have one or two because, especially in the Southwest and Southern Great Basin, June tends to be their peak. California, at least in the mountains, will be really, really slow, although we probably still see some increasing fires in the lower elevations. Our big concern is really in the Western Great Lakes, where we're expecting drier normal conditions over the next 4 weeks. We've already started to see a significant increase in fire activity there, as well as portions of the Northeast. It looks like the Northeast will, at least near normal for June, but above normal potential in the Western Great Lakes. And particular concern would probably be up in northern Minnesota, where we have historically had occasionally larger fires that do have a resource commitment, just as we had a large fire in the Arrowhead 2 years ago. In July, continued below normal for much of the Sierra into Northwest California. Now, but as we go to the Northwest and Northern Great Basin, the basin rain, a lot of grass left over from last year, and this wet winter will probably have a decent grass growth this year. And so when that starts to cure, above normal potential in the rangelands and grasslands in the Northwest and Northwestern Great Basin. One concern is going to be the rest of portions of the Northwest, maybe Northeast Oregon mountains of Washington, and into the Northern Rockies as well. The reason is, if we continue to stay drier than normal and with these above normal temperatures, not only is the snowpack going to melt out, we'll probably start accumulating those fuels a lot faster, and we could see something we're going to look at this month. And then going ahead to August, same concern as July, and again, paying attention to Northern Rockies. Other things we'll watch: Southwest with a drier than normal monsoon. If that materializes, we may see different fires, and we may see above normal potential there. However, we're not going to expect anything at this point to look like 2020, where we had really large significant fires. Thinking like it will slow down, but they probably will be a little bit more active than normal, and then continuing maybe below normal potential in the Southern Sierra. And just to kind of summarize everything, really this record snowfall leading to a delay. Northwest still looks good through June. Western Great Lakes is going to have that window at the end of June, and then really this current heat wave is a concern for us in the Northwestern U.S. That's all I have, pending any questions.
Thanks so much, Jim. If you have any questions for Jim, please post them in the Q&A section that's located once again at the bottom of your screen, and we'll address those questions in the Q&A portion at the end of the meeting. Links for our predictive services will be sent out in that email. I'm going to turn it over to Jessie, and she's going to cover our complex incident management implementation and the status of that.
Thanks, Hannah. Good afternoon or morning, depending on where you are, everybody. I just posted the link in the chat to the Incident Workforce Development Group's story map, which you have very likely seen, but want you to have that fresh if you aren't sure where to find that link. And I'm going to share my screen briefly as well. The Incident Workforce Development Group has been working on a lot of implementation steps for complex incident management over the last few months. A couple that I want to very briefly but specifically touch on. One is the training and qualifications changes. If you have been a Type 2 PIO trainee, hopefully by now you have transitioned to a PIO complex trainee, as Type 2 trainees are no longer recognized within the NWCG system. There are some agencies that are continuing to utilize the Type 2 pathway, at least in the short term, maybe longer. But from an NWCG standpoint, all of those trainees should have transitioned to complex trainees and should be following the training and qualifications requirements for that. The Type 2 pathway was completely closed back in January with the release of the updated PMS 310-1. If you're currently qualified Type 2 and making that move to complex from there, the CIM field evaluation form is still an option through 2023 and 2024. So come January 1st of 2025, that will no longer be an option, and you will need to take the course, either S520 or the Complex Incident Management course, to achieve that qualification. But for the next 2 years, that field evaluation is equivalent to the courses and may be completed in lieu of either of the courses. If you have any questions on the qualifications and training, the memos and position pages that are here have that information. And of course, you're welcome to reach out as well. And I'll talk more about questions here in a minute. The next piece I want to touch on though is mobilization. And MAC did issue updated guidance on the 2023 national rotation, which includes 10 Type 1 teams and 11 complex incident management teams. That is all 5 of the Northern Rocky teams, all 3 of the Rocky Mountain teams, and 2 of the Southern Area teams that are complex incident management teams for this year. So a geographic area ordering from the national rotation may get either a Type 1 or a complex incident management team assigned to the incident. There are going to be additional business rule changes implemented when the 2024 national rotation information comes out. But the National Multi-Agency Coordinating Group won't be putting out any guidance on that until probably November. Their intent is to get some feedback this summer on the initial changes that have been made and see if there are any adjustments that they want to implement to the recommendation prior to that full implementation of the new national rotation process. And then lastly, I want to touch on the CIMT configuration. And again, an NMAC memo released this new standard that takes place in 2024. So for 2023, there are no implemented changes to rostering, to team configuration numbers. That all remains the same as it's seen in the MOB guide and associated guidance. So for 2024, that core roster of 35 positions, that includes a minimum of 7 command and general staff positions, and then up to 20 positions filled at the IC discretion. That's the baseline, the bottom. There's no expectation that incidents only need 35 people and that that's what will mobilize to all incidents. That's the baseline, the starting. Recognizing that some very low complexity Type 2 incidents can get by with 35 to 40 people, and that on the other end of the scale, the high complexity Type 2 and Type 1 incidents certainly need more than that. That's where the importance of the mobilization roster comes in. This includes that core 35 personnel plus up to an additional 35 positions negotiated between the agency administrator and the IC based on the specific incident needs. And then the team can also bring up to 20 trainees, which is a huge increase over the number of trainees that have been approved up to this point in time. CIMTs will not be ordered as a long or a short team. That negotiation will happen with the IC and the agency administrator, and that'll determine the full configuration of that team necessary to meet the incident's needs. To have that conversation, the NWCG Wildland Fire Risk and Complexity Assessment, the PMS 236, has been revised to include this new Part D on functional complexity. So for public information, that falls under the command function, of course, and pieces like the social political aspects of the incident are included under this functional element. It would be ranked as a low, medium, or high, just as with all of the other functional areas. I'll scroll down here so that if you haven't seen this, you can note that all of the functional areas are listed here. And this helps determine what organization is needed within each functional area to better define what personnel are needed for each incident so that we can ensure that all incidents are getting the staffing that they need appropriate to the incident's needs, being more deliberate about who's going to incidents and ensuring that we can better spread the people where they're needed. The link to that risk and complexity assessment, if you are looking for it later, is right here. And we are asking for feedback on that through this summer to inform another revision that will take place next winter in anticipation of full implementation of complex incident management. The timeline for full implementation, I'm going to back up to up here for just a second to show you. Full implementation is still targeted for April of next year. The more specific breakdown of that you can see right here, and it shows that there are a number of plans and guides and documents that have to be updated between now and then. And that's really what takes us out to April, because beginning in January, that new configuration and the new national rotation will take effect. So all of our interagency incident management teams will be complex incident management teams come January 1st. But there are still some of those systems and guides and things that get updated over the next few months that really prompt us to have that April date. So we're under a year now to full implementation. If you do have questions, please put them in the Q&A and I'll respond to any of the questions that are placed there while we're on this call. But also there is an FAQ section of our IWDG story map. And so if you're looking for some of these basic tidbits, all of these answers are pulled directly from correspondence and documents that record the decisions made by the National Multi-Agency Coordinating Group, the Fire Management Board, or the National Wildfire Coordinating Group's Executive Board. But sometimes I know it's easier to see it in a Q&A format than simply reading a full memo. Final thing, I mentioned we need feedback on the risk and complexity assessment, but we need constructive feedback in general. This is our last year to make adjustments to the plan for implementation. And whether you reach out to us directly through the IWDG roster, whether you want to provide constructive feedback just in an open forum, this takes you to a link where you can choose to include your contact information or not. If you have a question, please include that contact information so we can respond back to you. But that's an open comment box for anything that you want to share. And then these 3 surveys here are slightly more targeted. They ask some framework questions to help guide you to provide some of that feedback that we're looking for. We will have an after action review this fall, like around October or November, to talk about all the pieces and parts of implementation and what we need to adjust going into the full implementation in 2024. And this won't be the last opportunity for feedback. This is just the last time for the plan feedback. In 2024, we will have another after action review and we will talk about all of the things that have gone well and need adjustment either end of the spectrum in 2024 to make additional adjustments going into 2025. And the intent is that we will continue to be deliberate about evaluating our system and what is working and what needs to be changed and adjusted so that we don't get another 10 or 15 years down the road and have a system that, again, has not kept up with the needs of the fire environment. So that is where I will stop. Find my stop share button. There we go. And again, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to put those into the Q&A section, and I will be here to answer those as we go. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Jesse. Lots of great resources there, and we'll make sure to link to those web pages in our email that goes out. We're going to turn it over next to Brian, who's going to provide some InciWeb updates for us.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the PIO NIFC webinar. My name is Brian Reublinger, and I'm the business liaison for InciWeb. And that means that I meet with the programmers, contractors, and the help desk, and we troubleshoot issues that are coming through InciWeb and figure out how to resolve those. I was going to share my screen, but I know my time is limited. The biggest thing I wanted to mention was, yes, the thing that you wanted for the longest time, and I heard requests, there is a practice site now. If you go on to, after you go through the login process, and you go to the user help page, which is kind of like the welcome screen for InciWeb, on the right-hand side, there's a check mark. And you remember if in InciWeb, there's the telephone in the book, icons for how you seek help. The first one on top has a check mark. If you go to that, there's a link right there that will take you directly to the practice site. And you know you're in the practice site when there's a menu bar on top that's normally black, but in the practice site, it's neon green. As long as you see that neon green bar up top, you'll be in the practice site. What's interesting is that the practice site mimics the live site. If you remember in InciWeb Legacy, which is the old version of InciWeb, the practice site used to be a clean slate, meaning that there was nothing on the map. You just had your practice instances. Because of the Drupal program, the site mimics the live site. So the new practice site mimics the live site. So you will actually see live incidents on the practice site. But there's a difference. The practice site refreshes itself every 30 days. And that means that if you're in the practice site and it's the end of the month, it will clean itself out. And all the fires that are the live fires will also update themselves. They only update themselves once every 30 days. So it's not like somebody makes a change on the live site and it changes over in the practice site. It's just strictly at that 30-day rotation. And the idea behind that is when you're in the practice site, you can actually see and possibly mimic and see how something is working in a site that's being productive, and practice your techniques and then move over to the live site. And then you could just keep on going back and forth between. There's a second way to get into the practice site, and that's through the Wildland Fire Applications portal. If you have other accesses, for instance, like WIMS or SIT209 or FAMFIT or any of the programs that are in there, just look for the box that is for InciWeb, and then there'll be a second InciWeb for test or practice. And if you click on that, that will take you to the practice site. One of the other things that goes on in InciWeb is a lot of people have issue with passwords and accounts. Because we did the switch over from InciWeb Legacy, which is the old version, to InciWeb Drupal, there's a lot of people need to go in and make sure that their accounts are up to date. And so before the fire season hits, or the fire year, excuse me, go into InciWeb and find out if your account is still active. That's a big one. And if it is not, if you cannot find yourself in there, then call up the help desk. And the help desk is there and it's the different help desk for at least for the Forest Service. It's the The help desk is available 24 hours a day, 365 days a week, including holidays, and it's there to help you. It's the interagency incident applications help desk. And they'll make a ticket and try to they'll get you all situated and ready to go for when fires happen. And then we also wanted to talk about the response times for the help desk. That is, it depends on, people have been calling into the help desk with, hey, I have an issue with this, or I have an issue with that. And there's a tier process with answering people's, or PIOs and PIOs in the field, which is tier 1, which is, you call up the help desk and you tell them what your issue is. And then depending on whether or not it needs to go to tier 2 or tier 3, and tier 3 is the actual programmers, and they're the technicians that are going to go in there and try to change Drupal in order for your issue to be fixed. Sometimes that is a quick response, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer, just because of how much of delving into the code they need to figure out how to fix this. And then one of the other things I want to talk about is the NIFC webpage. And there's a lot of things on the NIFC webpage. In fact, there's 11 videos that are on there. Those are actually a little out of date, and I'm gonna start taking those down and replacing with updated videos about how to navigate through the InciWeb site. I think there's still a lot of good content on the videos itself on how to navigate through, but when creating an incident or editing an incident or creating a publication or editing a publication, those rules, because the drop-down menu that we had originally, we eliminated. And you have to go through something called nodes. And when you go into group units, and to explain what a group unit is, a unit is an entity that exists on its own, like a national forest or a BLM office or a national park. That's a unit. When people are assigned to it, it becomes a unit group. So it's a group within a unit. That's what a unit group is. So you go up to unit groups, you find there's a search window there, you look for whatever agency you belong to, and then when you click on it, it'll bring up your possibilities. If you see the blue button that says nodes, click on it, and then you'll be able to go in and either create a new incident, create an incident publication, or edit a publication, or edit an incident. And you'll only have access to what you've been assigned to in InciWeb. And then just kind of wrapping things up, I'm also working on a new manual. It won't be as long as the first one, but it'll talk about the nodes feature and a few other things to navigate through InciWeb, just so you can get into that practice. And of course, the practice site is available to, if you just want to experiment with incidents. And the last thing I want to talk about, there was confusion in the beginning about the URL change. And InciWeb is still for all incidents. Doesn't matter if it's an earthquake or a flood, or it's just that the URL has changed. So it's not InciWeb.mwcd.gov. It is InciWeb.wildfire.gov. And the reason for that change was because there is going to be a wildfire.gov page, and it's supposed to be that one-stop shopping for everything fire related. And then InciWeb is part of that, and will eventually be migrated to that. And that's why it's InciWeb.wildfire.gov instead of the previous one. So we just want people to go in, make sure that their web browser is changed over, because eventually the InciWeb.nwcd.gov will eventually go away, and we don't want you to be lost in the system or have the public or the media not know where to go anymore. So make sure that you switch over, and InciWeb is there. And if you have any questions, you can either give me comments here or write to me, and I'll try to answer those as best I can. And that's it with InciWeb, and then turn it back over to
Thanks so much, Brian, and thanks for leading us through this next phase of InciWeb. There were a number of questions requesting links, so Brian will drop those into your questions as well as into the chat so everybody has access to them, and we'll include them in that email we sent out as well. We are going to launch into the Kahoot game next, so I'm going to turn it over to Sherry.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us in the Kahoot quiz today. We have a great cast of characters here ready to go, so let's get started. The incident position descriptions and requirements for all of the PIO positions are online available at. All right, the correct answer is it is on the NWCG website in the position catalog. To the next question here. The second annual National Wildland Firefighter Day is, the correct answer is July 2nd. That is coming right up. And this year, our theme is It Takes All of Us. We invite all of you to visit the NIFC website to download templates and graphics that you can use and customize to highlight the wildland firefighters and support personnel in your area. This question, the social media guidelines for the entire community are online at, and this is on the NWCG website, the PIO social media reference and guidance document. And after this question, knowing quail is in first, followed by royal penguin and mountain gnu. Where can PIOs share resources and network with wildland fire PIOs nationwide? This is available on the PIO toolbox on FireNet. Moving to the rankings, mountain gnu is in first place, followed by tropical goose and inspired mouse. True or false, when requested, the incident PIO can arrange media flights and aircraft assigned to an incident. The answer is false. PIOs are not able to arrange media flights in any of the incident aircraft. Mountain gnu, you remain in first place, followed by elated dingo and tropical goose. Where can you find the updated USA Jobs videos on the NIFC website? Just this week, we did add 7 new videos to the NIFC website under the Careers tab, and we hope these videos will help potential applicants as they apply for fire jobs. Mountain gnu, you are still in first place, followed by tropical goose and elated dingo. In the wildland fire community, the acronym UAF stands for, this one does vary, and it is important that you check with the local unit to find out what acronym, what term they prefer to use for UAFs. And that concludes our quiz today. And so next we will find out who is in first, second, and third place. Elated dingo, congratulations, you are in third. Tropical goose, you are second. And mountain gnu, you took first place, and we will get with you to get you a NIFC bag of swag.
Thanks so much, Sherry. And Mountain gnu, if you could drop your contact information into the questions and answers, we'll make sure you get your NIFC bag of swag here in the next couple of weeks. So we're gonna launch into some of our resources and other updates. And I wanna start by welcoming Chris Barth, who's gonna give us a quick update Chris, if you want to turn on your camera and unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I want to thank everybody that's put this together for allowing me as a public information officer subcommittee chair, one of the NWCG committees under the Communication, Education, and Prevention Committee. So I know that everybody's time is valuable. I did just want to share a few updates with everybody. Recently, there's an announcement about the folks might have seen that announcement regarding the award for the contract for the incident performance and training modernization. I just wanted to share that our PIO subcommittee is working to modernize and refine our training along those lines. And so we're looking forward to that. I know a lot of folks have been interested in some updates to some of the training courses for PIOs. The other thing I want to share, I'm going to try to pull up my screen real quick and share. We have been talking about this on some of the other opportunities out there, including IMRR. But again, for folks that might not have been participating in that or seeing that, we are working on this update. Some final edits going to be made so it can be posted on the NWCG PIO subcommittee website. But this is an update to the graphic we put out last year about what kind of PIO do you want to be. And this is really taking all the information, some of which you heard Jesse talk about earlier regarding pathways and requirements for qualification in the PIO position. So we've taken some feedback, and that final feedback is going to be incorporated into this document, and it will be posted on the NWCG PIO subcommittee page, replacing the one that's currently on there. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that and just pull up one more screen for you all, if I could. Actually, I apologize. I'm going to pull that back up and just switch. If I can move this. Apologize here. And I know that Candy's got it going on in the chat. She's been adding the link, so I apologize. I'm going to stop that. But Candy did put the link in there to our page, and I really wanted to point out particularly the roster. So if you have questions again about the position standards and qualifications that the PIO subcommittee looks at, please do reach out to the contact for whatever organization or entity that you belong. So again, look, if you were with Park Service, Candy is our Park Service rep, and you can reach out to her and ask questions or share some feedback for her. If you're a BLM person, please feel free to reach out to me and share that. Again, any of us are happy to try and answer questions. We try to be available on the IMRRs to share any updates that we've got, and just wanted folks to know that we're tracking along to help support folks that are going through some of those transitions between being a PIO-F in the past and now working towards PIO-3, or having been at PIO-2 and now facing that, where do I go with PIO-C? So we're working to provide some guidance for you, again, as we're learning it, and just helping to provide some tools that can help you all in the field to understand where you're at and what you might need to do to get to the next stage. With that, I'll turn it back over to Hannah. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I am going to turn it over to Candy now, who's going to provide us a couple more updates and resources.
Thanks, Hannah. So I'm Candy Stevenson. I work for National Park Service. I serve as a member of the External Affairs team here at NIFC. And on the PIO subcommittee, I'm your NPS representative. So just wanted to talk about, there's a couple of other things we've been working on. We are updating our training. S203 will be updated, but it's going to take a while to get those updates done. So we'll certainly let all of you know when the updates are done. We're also working on an update or a new training for our PIO technician position. So we're really looking at all the training and reorganizing things, especially with the incoming complexing and changes there. So anything that you want to know about that we're working on as the committee can be found on our website. You can look at our notes from our committee meetings, as well as check out that roster and ask questions directly to your representative. I'm also going to put in the link to our social media guidance so that you all have that too, and you can link directly to that. That will need some updates, but I think it's just some links. The information is still good, so you can still use that resource. And when that's updated, I think the link will stay the same, but if not, you can still link from any of our resources from the PIO SC website that I gave earlier. Back to you, Hannah.
Thank you, Candy. I'm going to hand it over to Jennifer now.
All right, thanks. And good morning, everyone. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to talk a little bit about our 550 information line. And we're going to let you guys know that that line is always covered. We have a rotation here at NIFC within our interagency group that each week is assigned to a specific individual. And they are answering those calls and returning those calls multiple times a day. When we reach the higher PLs, we get multiple calls. And so those return phone calls are very often. And so just letting everyone know, I know we've heard a couple folks concerns of is there somebody actually staffing that line? And there is. Every week we have an assigned person that assigned from a Monday to a Sunday. And we have that throughout the entire year. So again, if you guys have any questions, you have our numbers. You can call us here at the EA group within our agency, or please call that 550 line and we'll respond to your questions or any of the public questions as soon as we can. Like I said, that line is monitored multiple times a day, especially during more active fire season more often. Our EA staff is always here to support you. Each of us has an assigned a geographic area to answer any of the specific questions. So most of the incident management team's PIOs know who those folks are. And if you have questions, go ahead and reach out to us and we can definitely get those answered. But we are always here. Please send us an email, phone call. You guys have our numbers. We can reach out to us and answer any of those calls, any questions. But yeah, we're always here to support you guys. If you need anything, talking points are on the website. We can send you multiple links. The PIO bulletin board has always been updated. From Carrie Bilbao does a great job of making sure all of those links and Sherry Asherfeld make sure all those links are working and the most current information is on those sites. So again, like I said, we're always here to support the field. If you guys need anything, don't hesitate to give us a call and we'll try to help you as soon as we can. The next one I'm going to talk about, oh, go ahead, Hannah, is National Wildland Firefighter Day. You can see my awesome background. Sherry Asherfeld made this graphic, but National Wildland Firefighter Day is, like I said, coming up soon, July 2nd. And it's our second annual National Firefighter Day, but it's not only just for the firefighting resources, but it's for the amazing support personnel that are on the ground as well. And that includes us as PIOs. So we are hosting a news conference on June 27th. We'll be airing that via Facebook Live from NIFC social media, as well as some of the other agencies' social media accounts. But just the toolbox, the toolkit that was also shared last year, I'm going to drop that in the chat box. Is a great source of reference materials or guides or banners or backgrounds, overlays that you can utilize to support all of the firefighting support personnel that are out there on the ground every single day, year round, working in our wildland fire community. So a great way to just give a shout out to folks on that day, specifically July 2nd, but all the time, all year round. So if you have any questions with those, don't hesitate to reach out to us and we can answer any questions. We are adding new things to that toolkit this year, so please check back and we should have stuff from 2023 populated sometime the 1st to middle of June. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. I'm going to cover a couple other quick things and then we'll move into our questions and answers portion. We want to make sure that everybody was aware that we are not permitting members of the media to get onto our aircraft. That is something that was taught originally in the S203 course, and we want to make sure everybody's aware of that change, that we're not promoting media on aircraft. The other thing I want to mention is there was a request that came through for some consistency in regards to what public information officers receive when they come onto host units and what that looks like coming from the local public affairs officer. So we have started the work of drafting up a host unit PIO packet is what we're calling it. We're still trying to figure out some of the nuances of it and how it's going to work, whether that will sit agency specific and then be a tool for everybody to use, or if it will be shared more interagency wide. But just wanted to let folks know who knew of this request and were interested that we are still working through that. And when that document becomes available, we'll share that link with the greater group. With that, I am going to move us into the questions and answers portion. A number of the questions were answered as we went along. And so if you posted a question and you haven't seen an answer, look to the chat. But I'm going to run through quickly and let our EA staff respond to your questions. So feel free to keep dropping them in. We have a handful of minutes here to tackle these. So we have a question. Is there a reason why someone with a host unit with permission to create incidents wouldn't have access to create incidents on the practice site? So Brian, I'm going to punt that one to you. Oh, and it looks like Brian may have left us. So Carrie, I'm going to make note of that question and we'll get you an email response. Can media film the inside of an air tanker that is sitting on the runway was a question. That is something that is at the discretion of the aviation manager and in discussion with the PIO. I know in some circumstances we have allowed that, but I would say that is on a case-by-case basis and in conversation with your fire leadership. Does anybody else from our EA group have anything in addition to add to that? Okay. What is the biggest change from PIO-F to PIO-3? I'm still a trainee and waiting to be issued my new task book currently. So Chris or Jesse, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, no, I'll go ahead and answer that. Yeah, I appreciate that question. The main difference between the PIO-F and the PIO-3 is for the leadership and working with your command and general staff. Historically, the PIO-F has not really played a big role in working with command and general staff, and as we're moving into these new positions, we want to make sure that PIO-3 is trained and fully capable to work with that command and general staff, provide leadership and mentoring to a support staff in your PIO function, and make sure that they have the training and comfort to mentor and guide those folks that might be working for them. Again, that wasn't an expectation in PIO-F. And as we're going to be having complex incident management teams and type 3 incident management teams, we want to make sure those PIO-3s are fully comfortable with that skill set. Thanks.
We did have a number of questions coming through looking for the InciWeb links. Like I mentioned, we'll make sure we get that out to the group. We had a question that was already answered. Should we keep checking the fire learning portal for S520 and the CIMC course? So Jesse already answered that one. If you're interested, that's it, the box here under answered. But Chris, do you want to speak more to that?
No, I because you called on me, I did raise my hand. I apologize. I wasn't sure if you had an answer for that, but I did want to just say, as one of the cadre members for S520, there is a course plan for November and for December, and the nominations have been out. So there is a discussion about looking at increasing the offerings and the number of teams with that. So I just wanted to share with folks that at least at the 520, we are looking at adding additional teams to bring in additional positions and or additional course offerings.
Thanks, Chris. We have a question. Where can media find a list of the various types of aerial resources?
Hello, yes, under the NIFC website, and our resources does go over the different kinds of resources that are seen out on wildland fires.
And we can drop that link into the chat for you, Rachel. There is the question, do I need to be part of a team to go out as a PIO 3 trainee? Chris?
No, again, it's no different. You can be a single resource to go out, put yourself available as a PIO 3 training, I think is what was the question. And there will be a need, and you'll get an opportunity to have some experience with a new set of folks. And unless you do want to find a team to go out with and be a trainee on, but you can still go out as a PIO 3 trainee on an incident. Yep.
Great. We have a question regarding the RT 130 session. I'm no longer on the list for my previous forest, have missed the RT 130 session that is held. Is there a national version of the training that a remote or single resource can take? Aaron, I'm going to make note of that and see if we can find an answer for you and contact you to see if we can provide some help. We all need the RT 130. So I think that is all of the questions that have come through. And we are at 11 a.m. With that, I'm going to close this out. Thank our interagency external affairs staff for being on here today to help present and answer questions. And thank all of you for participating. I did want to throw out there that Megan Crandall is looking for additional PIOs for Team 5. So if you're interested in joining a team, you can contact her, and Jennifer is going to post her contact information in the chat. So please reach out to Megan if you'd like to join Team 5 as a PIO. And with that, we'll let you all go. Please look for the recording that's going to come in an email with additional links to those resources. Thank you so much.